Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint an eclipse landscape. I'm super excited about this. We've got the eclipse next week coming, and yay. So a little bit late, but hopefully we can get it in here just in time for before the eclipse. And yeah, I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat tonight, and he'll help you if you have any questions in chat. So let's get started. Alrighty, so I've prepped my canvas. This is a 12 by 12 inch Fredrix blue label. So it's primed with gesso, ready to go, and it's kind of a smoother texture, so it'll make it really nice, easy to blend with these smoother textures. If you have a rougher texture canvas and you don't like that, then you can gesso them to get them a little bit smoother, but with these ones you don't have to do that. As far as brushes go, I'm going to be using Princeton brushes tonight, as always. And I've got a few Filberts. I like to use Filberts when I'm doing blending in the sky, so I'll probably use those. I've got a few different sizes. The black handles are the Aspen, and the blue handles are the 6100 series. I've got a angle brush, which I really like to do flowers with. So we've got a lot of flowers in here. And I don't think I'm going to paint all of the flowers in individually, so I've got a Stippler for that and a fan brush for doing some of the flowers in the field, just to kind of take some of the heavy work out. And really the only ones that we're going to need like actual individual flowers are going to be the ones in the foreground. But we'll explain that, and I'll show you step by step as I go. Welcome. I am Angela Anderson. Been doing this for about 10 years here on YouTube, and for most of those live. So we do this once a week. Right now, we used to do it more often, but cut back, getting older, you know, all that good stuff. We got grandkids now. When we started this, our oldest or our youngest son was 10, and now he's 22. So that tells you.
There you go.
All right, let's go over colors here. But welcome. Glad to have you with us, and all of our regular followers too. We're super glad to have you come back. Join us. Colors? Nope. There we go. Carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, cadmium yellow light, Indian yellow hue, pyrrole orange, cadmium red medium, quinacridone magenta, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue green shade, and cobalt teal. If you don't have cobalt teal, you could use phthalo green instead. Unbleached titanium, titanium white, and gloss glazing liquid. And what you're going to want to find is a piece of tape roll or something. I happen to have this one, some glittery tape. I don't even know where I got this, but the size is just about perfect for our sun. This will help tremendously. We're going to use it like a stencil or a mask to make a perfectly round sun. If you don't have one, that's fine. Just find something that is circular, like a bottle cap or, you know, jar cap or something, and use that to draw in your circle, and then you'll have to paint it in. But we're going to cheat, and we're going to paint inside our little area. If you've got an open circle, it works really great, because then we can just paint inside of it, and it does the work for us. Makes it a lot easier.
Good hack.
I'm going to try to keep this one,
Good hack.
Yeah, good hack. I'm going to try to keep this one fairly simple tonight. There is a lot of blending in the sky, but it's mostly reds and oranges and yellows. So it's easier to blend in colors that are close to each other on the color wheel. And the blues and cobalt teal are kind of off in the outer reaches, and the magenta is kind of separating them from the warmer yellows and oranges. So I think we're going to be fairly easy blending, and I'm going to try to make it simple for you tonight. We'll see if I pull it off. All right, let's go. Let's go. First thing we want to do is figure out where the sun's going to go. So grab your cap or whatever you're using, and kind of imagine your canvas. I'm using a square canvas, but if you use another size canvas, whatever. I want you to do this in the same general area, though, on whatever size canvas, even if you use it on a longer canvas. because you can move your tree over or whatever. You can have as many trees as you want in this. It doesn't really matter, but you're going to want your sun to be kind of, that's our focal point. You want it to be in the third quadrant, upper third quadrant here. So if you split your canvas in 3 ways this way and 3 ways that way, you're going to have this little square in this upper corner here, and we're going to put our sun right in here, just kind of just offset from that. And I kind of already drew it in generally, but I'm just going to kind of put it there, and then that way I'll kind of know where to put my corona around it and things like that. Then I'm going to put my tree generally in this area, and almost touching it. Somebody was saying it looks like it's getting sucked into the sun in the reference photo, which is funny. It kind of does. I didn't intend it that way, but you can do it that way if you want to.
So you were saying about round objects to do the sun moon thing. If you used a Corona bottle for the Corona effect, with that.
There you go. Full circle moment there.
See what I did there?
I see that. All right.
Too early? Sorry.
You're going to find your halfway, which is right about here. And you come down about an inch or so, and that'll be our horizon line. So it's not quite on the third, and it's not quite as low as the quarter. So kind of, well, it is kind of almost on the third here, but just a little bit higher than third. So that'll be our horizon line, and that'll be important because that's kind of where our sky ends and our mountains begin. We have a few little mountains back here, and then our tree needs to come down below the horizon line just a little bit because we're having some like grasses and things, and it's going to be up in here. But I'm not going to draw it in yet, but it's just kind of nice to know generally where everything is before we start. So that'll give us plenty of room for our field. We'll have the bottom third and a little bit for that. And I'm just using a chalk pencil. You can use chalk, just something water soluble, because as we paint, we want it to dissolve away and not leave marks through our paint. All right. What am I doing? Let's go ahead and grab. Where am I?
Are you asking
what
me?
Day is it?
I think you're painting over there.
I don't know. All right, so I'm going to grab my 10 Filbert. I think I'm going to start there, and I'm going to get some white. And I'm going to go ahead and redo this yellow that's already here. And I'm just going to kind of reinforce it. And what that does is, I know it's already there, but it will help blend into the other colors that I'm going to add. And if I don't wet it, then I'll be working on a dry layer, and my paints won't blend with the yellow. So if I want him to blend with the yellow, I have to add yellow again. But I did start with the yellow background because it's going to nicely tint and be a nice glowing color under all these reds and things that we've got, reds and golds and things. So I'm just going to paint around. Kind of the width of this brush is about maybe about an inch brush or so. Paint around, and I'm not worried about that circle now that I know it's there. It's actually going to kind of dissolve away. There we go. And we'll paint over it as we get it going. And I'm going to get a little bit more white and do just some white over it because I want it really bright right there near it, near the center. And I'm going to kind of pull some white lines out just a little bit. Doesn't really matter. We're going to be painting over all of this as we go. All right, now we want our next color over, which is our Indian yellow, and I'm going to go a little bit darker. So I'm going to leave about a 1/4 inch of that yellow and just kind of spread it out from there. Okay, then I'm going to get my next color, which is my orange. So if you don't have these exact colors, just lay out your colors in this order where they're going from yellow to magenta. So magenta will be important to have, and some sort of a red, orange. Actually can get this cadmium or red color if you don't have it by adding magenta to my phthalo orange or Pyrrole orange, but we're going to use so much red today that I thought it would be good to just have it. So I'm going to mix this, and I'm going to blend it in, and using this brush, just letting some brush strokes happen. If you notice in the reference photo, they're not really very clean as far as like there's some like movement in the sky. It looks kind of fiery and stuff. So I think we can get away with having our brush strokes show today. And I'm going to get just Pyrrole Orange. I've cleaned out my brush. I'm adding some water to it. I'm using heavy body acrylics, but they don't want to move around very much unless you add a little bit of water to them. So I'm just going to add some water and see how I'm kind of working and always facing my brush strokes away from that sun. And that way I'm getting that kind of glow effect, that halo of color coming out and radiating out. I don't want it to look cartoony though, so don't get it too like perfectly, you know, I mean, I don't want it like a cartoon sun happening. I just want it to kind of radiate out and have any brush strokes that I see going kind of out from it. And I want this area down here to kind of go soft, so I'm going to get more of this peach and a little bit more white and do that on my horizon line down here and just blend that out. So the brightest colors are going to be right up at the top here, the brightest reds, and then down here there's some lighter tones happening. And really, honestly, this is not at all what it's going to look like in the eclipse, so please don't leave me comments saying everything is going to be dark. You're not going to, because it will be dark. Everything, Mark was showing me a video of what it looked like, and you can explain it if you want, but pretty cool.
Oh, no, I just think it's going to be awesome.
It is. It's going to be really cool.
Hopefully the clouds cooperate with us in this area. Right now it's looking like it could go either way, but...
Yeah, and we've got family coming in, too.
But either way, it's going to be dark.
Yeah, it's going to be dark. It goes dark. It doesn't look like a sunset at all. It looks like nightown.
From everything I've read and seen on, is just like 99% is still kind of dayish, and then 100% is night.
Yeah, and we're going to be in the 100% area. We'll be having 100% for 4 minutes, where it's going to be pretty amazing where we live here. I'm excited. All right, getting the red. Now, the red I'm going to do a little bit less, but still kind of generally just dabbing. Your brush strokes will look different than mine, and that's okay. So don't try to necessarily, like, you know, think you're doing it wrong. If it doesn't look exactly like mine, that's fine. You're just going to look different because you have different way of holding your brush, different way of loading your colors, everything. I've, you know, been painting for a long time, and so, you know, I have a certain way that I like to do things, but if you have a different way, that's not saying that you're doing it wrong. You're just doing it different. So just you do you, and embrace the uniqueness of your own style as you paint this. I'm just kind of showing you sort of a head start for what you can do to kind of make it happen. All right, so now I'm getting kind of a funky, weird thing happening here. So I'm going to grab this brush. So this is a Deerfoot Stippler, but it's got some texture to it. I'm going to take my yellow and I'm going to push that color back. So I'm going to take my yellow and just blend out, and maybe even just a little bit of white. Blend out that edge. See how that's going to help a ton. All these paints are still wet. I'm working very quickly here too. With acrylics, you have to, you can't fuss with your paints and mix, you know, for half an hour and then come back and expect these colors still to be wet and workable. You have to work quickly. So get the color close. It doesn't have to be perfect. If it's not perfect, you can always go back and add another layer later. But just try to do the best you can with the, I know that is one of the tricky things about acrylics. You can add medium to your acrylics to help them extend the dry time. And this gloss glazing liquid here that I have off to the side here, it has an extender in it, so you can add a little bit of that if you want to. I've kind of lost my yellow around the sun there, so I'm trying to put it back, but it's not letting me.
So which one is the sun?
Stipple it. What?
Which one is the sun?
The big yellow one is the sun.
Oh, okay, thanks.
That's That's from a Brian Regan joke. He probably copyrighted that saying, so sorry. Brian, don't sue us. All right, and then just pulling out here. All right, so at this point, these paints are pretty thick and they're starting to dry. They're going to start getting tacky and not in the way they're wearing their clothes, but in their feel. Texture will get thicker. I'm going to go ahead and just put in some of these clouds that I'm seeing down here on the horizon. And it looks a little like Sauron right now. Eye in the sky. That's all right. I'm just going to kind of add some yellow where my tree edge is too, because I know I'm gonna want some of that. And once this paint starts to get sticky, or it starts to do things like lift, like it's not blending, but it's like lifting off the color, then you need to just stop and let it dry completely. So once it does that, I'm kind of hastening the dry time by pushing that paint around and kind of blending out that edge there, because I don't want it to have a hard red edge there. All right. I promise you we'll get there. And it'll probably look worse before it looks better. So you may have to do this 2 or 3 times before you get it kind of, in the general region of what you want. But blending is one of the most difficult things in acrylics. I have to, admit that it is tricky and it does take some practice. So as much as I would like to make this one as beginner friendly as I can, in order to get the look we want, we kind of have to do some blending, which is a little bit more difficult. So it kind of takes it out of the super easy beginner realm and puts it into a more kind of moderately easy. I'm still trying to make it as easy as I can, but again, you can only do so much when you're having to mix this many colors. There's just not a whole lot you can do to make it easier. Okay, so we're going to mix my 2 blues. This is Ultramarine Blue, which is kind of purple leaning, and the Phthalo Blue, which is more green leaning. And by that I just mean it like they're kind of closer to those colors on the color wheel. And I'm going to add some black, just a little bit of black, just to really darken and desaturate the color. And I want it really dark up in this corner here and coming down towards our tree. And I'm going to go over my red area, and I'll blend this out later, but I just need this color to be dark in these corners, and then we can blend it out. I don't want to do too much over my red, because we will have to blend this out. We will have to cover this. So if we go too drastic, it'll make it really hard to get that red to cover it. But I think that should be close. And then I'm going to get my magenta and mix that with my blue and use my magenta also.
I've got a question regarding blending.
Okay.
They would want to know if like some kind of a satin medium would help work if you added
Satin medium?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that.
They're saying I guess a Liquitex satin medium to
Liquitex satin medium. I don't know. I know that the Liquitex glazing medium, it didn't have the extender in it. The golden one is, and the golden does come in satin. The satin and gloss, the only difference is the shine. So glossy is shinier than satin, and they're both fine for what I'm doing here. I just got paint on this one. Go. Okay, going in the bath.
So you're painting your brushes.
I am. You can see it's been done before. Obviously, I missed it when I painted black on here at some point.
Painting your paint brushes.
It sits right here next to where I pick up my water and stuff, so they're really close.
Next tutorial, painting paintbrushes.
Okay. Yeah. All right, getting my magenta And put some of that in. And again, kind of trying to go with the flow of everything, kind of pointing towards the sun. This is definitely a little trickier than it looks. So I'm going to have to go thicker with my orange to cover this. So I'm going to let that dry. It looks terrible right now, but I promise you we will blend it out. But you notice how I did this wispy? All of this, I just kind of pulled the color in so that I have these thin feathery edges, and that way I don't have any hard lines. If I had these like crisp straight lines, it would make it much harder to blend into these later. So I've got, just touching that in. Let's not do that. All right, so I need to let that dry, and my orange is still drying too. So let's work on our foreground and our mountains here. So I'm going to take this blue, which is up here, and just add white to it. Maybe a little bit of that purple. I like the mountains in the distance to be kind of bluish purple. It gives it a good feeling of depth and distance. So just however you want to do, and have it pretty close in value to the sky. So those are actually almost a little too dark. So I'm going to add a little bit more white and just do that over it so they kind of blend in. And then right in here I noticed that they kind of turn pink. So get some of that magenta color over there and do these ones over here a little bit more pink, and just keep them low and indistinct. They don't have to have any real detail at all, right? We're just trying to put in the illusion of distance, and I'm going to leave a little bit of yellow here, like maybe some light is hitting a lake or something back there, and then a little bit more white at the base, and there we go. So those are our mountains. No other detail really needed. I may lighten up this horizon line a little bit more. I feel like it's a little too dark still, but the sun is here, so I don't really think it needs necessarily to, it's not going to be correct because the sun isn't going behind the mountains, but I still like the picture, so I'm going to do it sort of like the picture is, even if it's not correct. You do you. It's your painting. This is a fantasy art. This is not reality right here. We're just doing something because it's a nod to the solar eclipse. Okay. And then let's do our greenery now. Our foreground is going to be darker. I'm going to get the burnt sienna, burnt umber, and some phthalo blue and cobalt teal. That'll make a green, kind of a dark teal green. I still had some of that other color in my brush, and that's okay. So I'm just going to use that and do my horizon line pretty straight across here, and just kind of blend it, fuzz it out where it's overlapping that white in my distance. And always keeping these horizontal. That's the important part. You don't want any uprights right here. Everything should look horizontal and flat. That is what's going to make it look like land. As things get farther away from us, they flatten out. Or at least we perceive them to be flat. All right, so there we go. And all these nice little streaks we're going to leave. And then as we come down, we're just going to keep on adding more, and maybe a little bit more of our maybe add a little bit of yellow to that to make our green a little bit brighter. So just the same colors, maybe a little bit more cobalt teal. Again, this was burnt umber, burnt sienna, and phthalo blue, and cobalt teal, or phthalo green if you don't have cobalt teal. And then adding a little bit of yellow to it for the ones, so that they're a little bit more saturated as they get closer to us. And the farther away, they're a little bit more grayed out. Okay, and we'll add lighter tones to this, but I'll just go fairly dark here. And again, I'm not worried about my streaks. As long as I'm getting this on kind of side to side motion, we're good. A little bit more yellow, and maybe in this foreground I can start to do kind of more up and down, because the foreground we'll see actual blades of grass or whatever. But anything above like the halfway down our foreground here, or our land area, I should say, would be side to side motion. And then only the very bottom section here would have any kind of grassy look to it. Okay, that looks good. Let me get my, and really this is about, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail. We just don't have time tonight to do a ton of detail on this, so you could get out a fan brush or something, and I might do that later, but this will be pretty much all I do with my ground. And I think I did it too light. Even still, if you look at the picture, it's a lot darker back here, so I'll probably darken up this area that's in the back area a little bit. This is still wet, so yeah, I may have, yeah, I'm just gonna send it with Mark to dry this. It looks terrible at this point. Okay, so if yours looks like this, your brain is going to be screaming at you that you're doing something wrong, and I promise you we're on the right track. So yes, so we've done a contest in the last 3 in March. We did giveaway contest for some not giveaway, sorry, our art sponsors gave away some art haul art supplies. So our winners are Iris Simon, Sissy Brazil, Darla Dillard, Debbie Snow, Carly Bender, Ashley Bingham, and Robin McKee. And they won either Princeton Brush Art Hall or Fredrix canvases. And I've already contacted the winners, so yay to them. And congrats, and thanks for everybody who entered. Princeton and Fredrix are so wonderful sponsors to work with. I've worked with them for many, many years. Their products are remarkable, best in the business, and they're wonderful to artists and great to work with. So I'm really, really excited. Whoa, sorry, I just kicked my computer thing. I did want to show you last month's on Patreon. We have this thing, little side thing. We have free literally hundreds, like I think 700 maybe, free videos here on YouTube. But we also do these more intense videos once a month over on Patreon. And if you go to my website, the link is down in the description. It'll show you the other videos that we've done for these bonus. This was our bonus video for patrons. This is the $5 level. And you also get traceables for that. So we'll have a traceable of tonight's tree and eclipse if you don't want to draw it yourself. And then the $15 level, we do a weekly video where we work on something all month long. So this took 10 weeks to finish Animals of Africa, or animals of Australia, and we've done animals of Africa, animals of North America, South America, and Asia. And so we have Europe left. We'll probably do later on this year, but right now we're going to be working on butterflies, and we're doing a butterfly collection. If you check out any of my social media, you'll see the links to, or the video or the picture that we're painting. I can't talk anymore. All right. But anyhow, I know last week when I did that the rooster, floral rooster, I forgot to mention that we had a traceable in case you don't like to draw. So makes it really easy. You just trace on the design onto your canvas and you're good to go, and you can paint over it. It is not cheating. It just makes it easier to enjoy what you love to do. So don't let anybody else tell you different. And people will. The art police is real, I'm telling you. They like to keep you from having fun, so like make you feel bad about making fun artistic choices for yourself. So don't listen to them. All right. Here we go. All right, so you may think, okay, hot mess, but we have this really bright, saturated or, light area, and we have to go to this really dark area. So in order to get there, we have to do some blending between these two, obviously. And we have some reds and magentas and things like that in here. And we want to start light, though, because if we don't start light, it just makes it so hard to get to this vibrant state here. So you start light and you work your way slowly to darker. And I think I'm going to go ahead and use my Deerfoot Stippler for this, just because I want to have a little bit more control. This brush is great, but it doesn't give me a lot of control in this small area here. So I'm going to start with this, and I think I'm going to work on this edge right here. So I think I'm going to add some Cobalt Teal and get a little bit of Phthalo Blue. And I'm just going to blend that up over and try to kind of get out some of these obvious brush strokes and things. And again, kind of give us a little bit of a wet working edge to blend into. We have to have a little bit of color there to blend into. I'm going to get a little bit more of my Ultramarine Blue and Phthalo Blue and just a tiny bit of that black. And go back in here too and do that a little bit darker up there. We don't have to go exactly like our picture, and if you don't want to do the dark area, don't do it. Just do the lighter colors. It would be a lot easier if you did your whole sky the brighter reds and left out the blue. That would be the easy way of hacking this and not making it so difficult, because this part is the most difficult part. But I think using this brush the way I'm showing you is going to make it a lot easier. So the key is to use fairly thick paint for this, and but not a lot of it, if that makes sense. So you're going to keep your paint fairly thick so that it'll cover, but I don't want a ton of it on my brush, because if I add too much, it's just not going to give me any control. So I'm going to wipe out that brush once I just grabbed the magenta. I think there might be a tiny bit of that ultramarine blue that was still left in my brush, and then some white here, and just a little bit of white. And the white will help make that magenta cover. You can see if I just did magenta over this black area, it would be too dark. See how dark that is? But by adding just a little bit of white, it makes it more opaque, and it makes it so that it will cover. And my tree is going to be in this area, so I'm just going to blend down over this area, and you can see where the line between the blue and the other is, and that is because that color is still a little bit transparent. That magenta is going over it, is still a little bit transparent. I'm going to get a little bit of red, and I'm going to try to get a little bit more opaque color going here. I'm going to get some cadmium red or some Pyrrole orange. Both of the Pyrrole orange and the magenta are both transparent, so the cadmium red will help kind of make it more opaque, because we have to have a little bit of opaqueness to get over this edge. Otherwise, we'll just see the blue through it. All right, but you can see that's kind of starting to work now. And I'm going to blend this out and just do like little circular motions and add color over the top of my black, or blue, I mean, blue and black. And that looks good. All right, so then I'm gonna get some orange and Indian Yellow Hue, which is kind of our color in here, and I'm gonna try to match it up as best I can. But I'm going to blend back over. This is all very wet now, kind of thick, but because I'm using opaque paint and fairly thick paint, it's covering fine for me. And if it ever starts to feel sticky or just feels like it's not wanting to move around for you, that's where your paint is trying to tell you to stop. So you just have to listen to the acrylics. It takes a while to get the knack for it, but if you keep adding more and more layers and don't dry it like Mark did, you know, Mark took it and dried it out for me. If I tried to continue to paint on a canvas that is trying to dry, that has paint that is still tacky or, you know, trying to dry, it will cause me a lot of problems. So you have to be patient, let it dry. You can add as many layers as you want to, as long as you let them dry in between. If you don't let them dry, they will make you pay, and they will do all kinds of weird things, and you'll have caking, and you'll have it lifting, and you'll have it doing all kinds of strange things that you don't want to happen. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and there's kind of a bright area sort of back here that's trying to come up, maybe some clouds or something. And this is you can look back. I'm just basically kind of adding my warm colors here and there. So wherever you need them on yours, yours might need them in different places depending on how much went on in the first layers. But just trying to stay away from this area though, kind of stopping before I get down here. I'm just working on the blend between the blue and the reds right now. We'll get the rest later, but you can only do so much. I'm going to get some of the Cobalt Teal, and I'm going to add it to this magenta mixture, and it'll kind of go gray, but that's okay. And just use it to help soften up that a little bit. Now, if it's because of the colors, because blue and orange are opposite on the color wheel, they're going to make a gray or a brown color when you mix them together. So just be careful of that and clean out your brush if you are going to go back into doing any blues. So I'm going to get more of that Cobalt Teal that I cleaned out my brush here, and I want to soften off where that Cobalt Teal and the magenta sort of mix and go into the sky. And again, not using too much paint, but my paint is thick. The thicker paint just makes it easier to push it around and to cover. If it's too thin, it's just going to be watery and it's not going to cover. Now we've got it. See, that helped a lot. So now we've got a nice kind of blend happening right here. Now our tree's going to go in this area, so all we're going to see is just a little bit right here. I think I'm going to bring this down a little bit more even in here. Okay, I'm liking this. See, it's starting to turn brown right there where my magenta and the Cobalt Teal were mixing. So I'm going to get some more magenta and try to come back over this area here. Okay, so now we've got a decent blend out into our blue area. I'm pretty happy with that. So let's go ahead and work on our red into gold. Okay, so wipe out my brush and get most of that out of there. I just wiped it on paper towel. I'm going to get my orange now. And make sure I have all of that blue out of there. We don't want any blue in here now that we're doing our orange. And I'm not going to add white to it this time. I'm just going to use it straight up. See if I can get that bright orangey color to show up. And go on fairly thick. But because we still have that yellow, it's going to really be vibrant underneath that orange. Okay. And I don't want it too close to my sun. I'm going to go ahead and kind of bring it in a little bit, but it's trying to lift right there, which means that magenta is a little bit wet. So leave that alone. And then if you have any areas that are just not looking right or not blending, you can take some white or even some zinc white if you have it, and you can just kind of mix it with whatever color's there and help go over that area and just kind of softly blend over it. Just kind of fuzzes it out and softens it off. So I'm going to get a little bit of glaze and a little bit of this orange with the white. And I'm going to come down under my sun just a little bit with it. Don't want it to go too far down because I do want that lighter color down there. But I want to kind of, I brought my purple pretty far down here. I'm not really sure why, because it doesn't come that far down in my picture. I'm not really sure what I was thinking there. I think I wanted the purple and not the blue, but I brought that purple down, or the blue down, I mean. Okay. There we go. And then again, let's use this orange with the white. And if you don't have the Pyrrole orange, use cadmium orange. Is a little bit brighter, but it works well too. It'll work great. And then now I'm going to get my yellow. So as I move away from the red and into my yellow, I'm going to transition my colors. So I'm going to grab the next color over, and I lined them up with the cadmium yellow light, which is the greenest leaning yellow, which sounds weird, but it is. Then cadmium yellow medium would be next, and then a India yellow, or a diarrhea yellow, or a cadmium yellow deep, or something like that would be next, and then our oranges, moving into our oranges. So using the India yellow, and white, I still had that orange on here. So they're going to blend, and I'm going to push with the white in here. I can push that color back up because it'll cover over, and I can add these flares now. And this is where I want to be a little bit more strategic and think about where I want these flares. I don't want them everywhere because that'll start to look cheesy and unrealistic. So if I want it to kind of have some realism, I've got to limit myself as much as they're fun to do. I want to just do a little bit of the flares, not a ton. So I'm going to take the corner of my brush here. I'm going to get some of the cadmium yellow light, a little bit brighter even, there with the white and the yellow. And I have it fairly thick this time. And I'm going to turn my brush over and just use the corner. Now that pointy tip makes it really easy to do this. And I'm just going to tap a little bit of a flare and just have a couple spaces where I do that and leave it. That's it. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to do it down here, and then maybe one up here, just a little. And that's it. Okay, stop. Don't do anything more. And as long as your blend looks good, I think we're pretty close to done. I'm going to wipe my brush out and get a little bit more of that yellow and do a little bit more blending right down here where I brought that orange down because it's kind of looking funky. And blend that out a little bit, maybe. Just soften that off. If you've got any of this orange that looks like it's not blended out, then you just, again, use the next color down and work on those transitions between the colors. And you're always just kind of trying to blend so that you get a nice transition. This brush makes it really easy to do, though, because it holds a lot of paint, but it also, you can kind of run it in circles like this. And I find that that kind of circular motion helps really with the blending. It does a really good job. All right, yellows, both my yellows here. I got a little bit of that orange. And I'm just going to kind of pull it upward like that. Okay, that looks really good. And I think we're done there. That's it. You have a little bit of a circular motion, just slightly, like right in here. So kind of swinging those brush strokes just slightly to feel like they're sort of glowing. Down from the sun. You can take some of that yellow if you want to and do that, but I think we're pretty close. Now we may have left too much yellow. We'll find out when we do our sun, I guess, but we'll see. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and use this brush and get some of this green that I made earlier. Do you have a question?
I was just throwing in a correction there.
What correction?
Moon.
What did I say, sun? Mm-hmm. Oh, that is the moon. Right, you're right. That is the moon in front of the sun.
Ornaments.
Have I said sun about 1 billion times?
It's an ornament.
Probably.
We'll just go with that.
Okay. All right. Getting my ultramarine blue and my cadmium yellow light, and I'm going to make my green out of that. I'm just going to use that and just tap in just kind of a line of foliage way back here. I want it to be kind of dark. And it can go up over our mountain line if we want. Keep it small though, I don't want it too wide. I'm adding a little bit of black in this area because this is under my tree. I want it to be nice and dark. So just kind of fuzz out side to side. The tapping motion is called stippling. If you're new to acrylics, that's the technique name. So I'm just kind of stippling and also just kind of scrubbing it side to side. That's called scumbling, is scrubbing. Kind of just this side to side motion. And I'm trying to neutralize this color a little bit back here. It was a little too bright. And so I'm using this orange color that's in my brush and letting it sort of tone down that green a little bit in places. Plus it's going to, you know, blend in with our flowers. We got red flowers here, so it's going to be fine to have a little bit of orange back there. It's not going to look weird. Okay, much better, much more natural looking now. And yeah, I think we're almost ready for our sun. I think this is, or our, yeah, let's go ahead and, let me see. Moon, sorry. Almost ready for our moon. I think I'm going to use this brush as a Willow's blender for it. We'll see. And I think we'll just set that over and try to get it in the same spot. I'm not sure if that's dry enough. Let me make sure it's not wet. Okay, it's not wet. Okay, right there. Trying to get my head there. I can't see. Okay, I think we're good. I'm in. Yeah, no, my head's in the shot. Sorry.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't?
Nope.
Oh. I just saw myself. All right, getting some magenta and a little bit of ultramarine blue. I'm going to start with that. I'm going to keep my paint thick. If I do it thin, it's going to seep up underneath, and we might as well not have put this thing on here. So I'm going to do that first and just do a magenta, really pressing down hard here so that it doesn't come off. And then getting my ultramarine blue. Putting that in. Probably going to need to do this a couple of times to get it to cover. Because I can see that it's like, you know, showing through. I'm going to add just a little bit of white. The white will make it more opaque. And I'm going to mix these two together. And maybe add just a tiny touch of black. That'll make it more opaque, yeah. That'll be easier. And then I want to kind of stay away from that magenta area and just keep this color in the middle. And I can always give it a second coat. But try to get it as close as I can. All right, not too bad. Not too bad. All right, so I can see a couple things. We'll definitely need to add more white around our sun, but I think we did fairly good. I think we're in the range of where we want to be. All right, and just clean off your tape if you want it to. You've just sacrificed your tape roll, so you're gonna have to live with your choices. What do you want? A perfectly round sun or a pretty tape roll? That's what you just gotta decide. All right.
So,
every time you use that tape, you'll think about yours.
I was going to say, you need to cut that part out and put it at the beginning when you're telling them, just select different things, so don't get grandma's, priceless roll of tape and do it.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I think I left a little too much sun or, too much area here, kind of like from the picture. So if you want a little truer to the picture, you could bring your grasses up a little higher, and I might still do that. I don't know. But I think it's going to look all right. I'll have plenty of room for my tree. I'll bring my tree down over here probably. And that's pretty dry now, so I'm going to go ahead and draw in my tree. I'm going to use chalk to do it and give myself an idea of where I want to do it. So this was the third this way and my third here. So I think I'm going to put my tree right here, coming down just right there, and then splitting off and doing its thing, coming down this way and all up in here. Across, down, back up, right over. Branch that way, branch here. And okay, that'll be good. So let's go ahead and grab my Foreground here. And this will be a good brush to use for the details on my sun too, or my moon, sorry. Getting some ultramarine blue. I'm going to go ahead and do the same kind of dark color that I did in my moon.
Good job.
So, thank you. It still feels like it's just a black sun. Okay, so getting that dark purpley black, brown. It's got burnt umber, black, and magenta and burnt umber, ultramarine blue, I mean. And I'm using my Foreground here. I'm going to start at the dark area at the bottom here and just kind of push down, and however wide I want my tree, just kind of push it down and wiggle it a little bit as I'm pulling it up. And as I pull up, I'm going to lessen the pressure so that I get it a little bit smaller. And I should, if I did my Foreground right, my tree should kind of blend in and disappear. So I'm just going to use that color and just sort of darken up that area below it. And this color should be almost as dark as my tree, so I can't really tell where my tree stops down here if I did it right. Okay. And then the split should be kind of just above your mountains and have it come out. And as the trees branches grow upward, they get thinner and thinner until they're super thin as they come out and they disappear kind of into our foliage. So we're not going to see all the branches, but we're just going to do the major ones that we know we'll see through our foliage and holding up the rest of the tree. Really nice. Okay, be sure you add water when you use a round brush. If you don't add water, your paint will be, if you use paint that's too thick, it will not flow off your brush. It will just kind of stick and you'll end up pressing down to try to get that brush, the paint to come off, and you'll end up with thick lines. So if your lines are too thick, or they're, especially if you, like you see the color is not going on smoothly, then you just need to add water to your paint and that'll help tremendously. You'll find that you can do lines all of a sudden. And I also have some tutorials and even like a little TikTok video on my TikTok channel. If you look in the description, there's links to all the materials that I'm using, Amazon links for where to buy supplies and all that stuff, and also all the social medias where Instagram and TikTok and different things that Facebook. I have a Facebook group where you can share your paintings with me. If you paint along, be sure to join my Thankful Art group. I also have the one just for patrons who are at the $15 level, and they get to share the weekly art chats with me and chat and have critiques and things like that on their artwork. But the Facebook group is just for my sharing my tutorial artwork. So if you're painting along, be sure to join that because we definitely like to see it. But anyhow, if you want more information on line work, I have a video also on my YouTube channel here that's called the Beginner Basic series that goes over line work. The very first one is line work because it's the one I find, besides blending, that people get frustrated with the most. So you could make a shape in that tree if you wanted to. I've seen them where they kind of make a heart shape, or you could make that into some sort of shape there if you wanted to get fancy about it. But I think that looks pretty good. We're just kind of trying to, the reason I drew out my outline of my tree is so that you see that the branches don't go all the way to the edge. You don't want your branches to end at the top of your tree. That's not how it works. They get very, very thin at the top. So you want your supporting branch to end, a good distance from the edge of the foliage where the leaves are and things, because the leaves have to take up that space, not the branch. All right, so don't go all the way to your line where you drew it. All right, so I'm going to go back to this brush. I think it's been working pretty good for us. And let's go ahead and get this color. And I'm going to go ahead and add the colors that I'm seeing in our sky, especially around the area where the sun is hitting it. So I'm getting this purple-y color, but I'm also getting some of that orange. And I'm going to use that right in here. And I might even want a little bit more of that yellow. Let's get some yellow. And just for this area here, I'm going to start out with kind of a lighter color, and then I'm going to go darker. But I want just a little bit of this to be lit up from that glow of the sun. Maybe we'll get the orangey colors here going on. And tapping. Okay, good. Now I'm going to go dark. Getting those two and these two, and we'll go ahead and go right up over, and if we do this right, we won't be able to see those branches at all on the tips. We do it just because sometimes you'll see them a little bit, but you really don't want to see them at all almost when you're done. So I'm going to tap, I'm going to turn my brush so that I'm getting my foliage in different directions and looking random, and leave a little bit of the sky color showing through here and there too. Not too much though. You want a pretty solid areas in some of this, especially the middle areas over your branches. You really want some solid color, otherwise your tree kind of looks like it's floating or just not quite right. I'm going over those oranges, but leaving just, you can see how it's just a little bit of a glow there, not much. Getting the magenta and the blue. Back here is really going to be really dark purpley because it's not getting the glow. I only did the glow on the area that was close to the sun. The rest of this is dark. It's not getting that light.
So there were several posts going around yesterday saying that NASA or somebody had made some last-minute corrections in the
I saw that.
path of the eclipse.
Yeah,
that it just moved because calculation stuff like that. You do realize what the date was
April
yesterday.
Fools. Yeah, exactly. I know. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, the date of the post is April 1. So, yeah, that's not true. Not true at all. I'm sure it probably caused some hubbub, though,
Oh,
for
yeah.
people
Yeah.
panicking and canceling plans. Hopefully not. But it was like when they did I can't remember what company did it, but they did an April Fool's where they were like, your phone can now go in water or go in the microwave or something like that to clean it. And yeah, people like ruined their phones thinking it was true. Yeah. Like, I never trust anything on April Fool's Day. Especially nothing on the internet.
Right. Yeah.
All right, that was red. I added some red bits, and now I'm going back in with my darker. I just need to let that dry because it's not wanting to blend in anything more, but I think I want to bring this out just a little bit closer to the sun in some places here. And maybe down here too, but I want it. You can kind of start doing too much. It goes south real quickly with these. So I want to slowly add more if I feel like I need it. Maybe go up higher right there. And step back and look at it from a distance when you're trying to decide if you need to add anything, because that will help give you perspective on it. When you're right here in the middle of it, sometimes you can't really tell what to do. So step back and look at it from a distance, see what you think. I think mine's pretty close to where I want it to be. Might bring it out this way, more flat that way. All right, I'm going to stop there. We're only an hour in, and we're making good time. I was thinking this one was going to take me a while, so I'm trying to go through it fast. So, but you've got the pause button. You can pause it as you're working, so don't feel like you have to keep up with me, because that will be impossible. You can't keep up with somebody painting in real time. There's no way. None. All right, so I'm going to get
Yeah,
the
I
two
tried it
aught
with the
round.
Swan video.
Yeah, it's too.
That
I've
didn't
tried.
work out.
You can't do it. It's not possible because the thing is you can't know what the person is thinking and they're planning to do next, and so that's where you miss it because they're already thinking about their next step, and you're still doing whatever they just did. You know, so there's no way to anticipate what they're going to do next.
So, when are we going to sing the song?
What song?
The Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Oh gosh, never.
I've been practicing my falsetto.
All right, I got some white and my magenta, and I want to add some lighter color right here. I feel like it needs a little glow. You've been practicing your, okay,
The
well,
falsetto, yeah.
don't do it because I don't own the rights to that song. We'll get in trouble. So, sorry.
I think they'll pay us
I
not to
spoil
sing it,
all of your
actually.
fun.
Like I said, they'll pay us not to sing it.
Probably. All right, there we go. Okay, that's better. That's got a kind of a smokier look. And then I'm going to, I switched to, that was my 1/4 inch blender, by the way, just to give me some, a little bit more control. I'm going to get some white, just a little bit of glaze. If you have zinc white, you could use it. But let's go ahead and do our little flare out right here. And just kind of smoke over the edge with my white. And it's okay if it goes around like onto the moon a little bit. Just slightly. And I'm going to put another layer onto the moon here, so I'm not worried about it. I just lifted off some of that purple actually, but there, that looks better, a little bit more glowy. And there is like that little flare that comes out off the side, so I'm gonna kind of do that. They said we should get this little effect in ours. If it, I don't think I did that very good, but I'm gonna kind of tap off there to take that off and try. I'll try it again. I got some purple in it. I don't want the purple in it.
And there's a comet also that's passing through right now.
Really?
That they're saying that if
It
conditions
might
are
show up
right,
too?
you should be able to see the comet
Oh, neat.
during the eclipse.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. That's pure white. There. All right. I don't know if I like that, but I've got to let that dry because I've got too many layers of paint on there right now. I'm going to take off my chalk. Any of this chalk that you see that you don't need anymore. Just wiping it off with, it was just regular school chalk. Just wiping it off with thing here, and let's go ahead and zoom out here, honey, so I can paint the flowers. We'll paint our flowers and then we'll come back and finish our tree and our sun, but I think we've got it pretty close to where we want it. It's on the right track, I think. All right, so just need to decide how we want to do our flower field. I think I might use this brush because I can get kind of lines of stippling. It's flat in the rounded shape will help me. So if you have like a filbert, you could also use a fan brush. I've used a fan brush for this too. It kind of does a similar thing. But I'm going to go ahead and use this one. This is the 3/8 inch, just a little bit bigger size, so I can get more of the flowers in. And I'm going to go ahead and start with just my red and see what that does over this dark green. I think it's going to get affected by that background green enough that it'll go fairly dark, and I don't need it really bright in this area. So if it's too bright, I can, no, that looks great. Perfect. Perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and dab it on. And I'm just going to dab kind of like little clusters of, if you look at our picture even, you know, flowers in a field grow in these You know, they're all the same height, so their heads are all kind of in a line, and when you look at them at a distance, they look like a line of, you know, wavy little bobbleheads. So they're not, there's not any detail, is what I'm saying. You're not seeing individual flowers at all. You're just seeing kind of lines of, wiggly lines of clusters of flowers. So I'm just going to do that, dab it on in kind of wiggly lines, and as I get closer, then I'm going to start, but I really am not going to start to see flower heads at all until about right in here. So about halfway down. So let's go. Just continue to dab on in kind of random clusters, and cluster them a little closer together in places and a little bit farther apart. Make sure you're leaving some of that green showing. And I'm starting to get a little bit of the orange mixed in, so we have some brighter spots here and there. Okay, really easy. It's amazing what your eye fills in. We did not have to do any detail here, and hopefully, if we're doing this right, it's already kind of starting to look like a flower of poppies, field of poppies. And that's because our eyes interpret scenes for us. They kind of have this whole logic built in where they know if they're seeing color in a landscape on the ground, those obviously are flowers, and you don't have to put in the detail at all in order for your brain to interpret these colors. That's why abstract art works. You know, these, like, you know, abstract paintings where you just have lines of color, you know, here and there, and every now and then there's like something that your brain kind of goes, oh, that's a city, or oh, that's a seascape, or whatever, you know, depending on the colors or the shapes or whatever that are used. But, you know, of course, obviously with abstract, they're trying to obscure it and make it mysterious, but or impressionist art the same way, you know, they're a little bit more literal, but we're doing a little bit more like realistic version here, I guess. But still, we're getting that same effect just by adding our colors and our shapes in the right way. Our brain is realizing that these are flowers. All right, let me go ahead and get a little bit more of my orange. I get just the tiniest bit of white. I don't want a lot of white. I just want a little bit of white. And I'm out of my magenta. I do need that color back. Oh yeah, I was going to show you my magenta is an attempted murderer. It tried to take out our cadmium red. The other day, you can see the evidence on the corner. It like gouged a huge hole in my cadmium red.
Just cut it.
Just to shank him.
We had enough of it.
Split him open.
That's it.
It's like I'm the new red in town.
I've had enough of you.
Yeah. All right, I just got magenta.
Hope you dry
blue.
out.
Huh?
Hope you dry out.
Hope you dry out, exactly, before she notices. Yeah. All right, I still haven't enough of that. All right, good. So I'm going to get, I think I'll get a little bit of that magenta. It'll give me a brighter red and just the tiniest bit of white, which will help it go opaque. And I want kind of where my sun is, maybe have just a few little areas that are a little bit lighter here and there. Don't want to do too much detail way back here, so just adding another layer of interest here. Okay, and then in this area down here, I want to have grass. So I'm going to get my fan brush and I'm going to add some grass before I do my finishing touches on the field. So I'm going to get some of my yellow, and I'm just going to get some of this green that I used in my field before. It's still wet over here which was my blues and my browns, I think. White, and add enough water so that it's nice and fluid, and your fan brush needs to have fluid paint because it's so thin. The bristles are too thin to. This one is a soft bristle brush, so the stiffer bristled bristle fans can kind of push around the heavy body paint a little bit more, but this one is in particular is a soft fan, so you're going to need. And then I'm going to just tap in a little bit of this color up here around my flowers in some places too. Just a little bit. This horizontal taps. Color, do not do grass. Don't do it. You're going to want to, but don't do it. Just tap straight lines, little dots until you get to about right in here, and then you can kind of do very little baby grasses, tiny, and then in this foreground we can do bigger, longer grasses, and I'm just overlapping them so that I'm getting lots of detail, or lots of layering. All right, getting some more of my darker green here. I'm gonna put some of that in. I need my darker blues. There we go. You can hold your brush kind of at an angle too to get thinner lines, or you can use a liner brush and do them that way, but this is the fast way of doing it. It's easier for what we need. Okay, so I think I'm good. I'm gonna go ahead and do another line around my sun, because that purple was wet when I did my white around my sun, and it turned my white kind of purple. So I'm gonna get maybe a tiny bit of yellow and add it to my white. I want it really white. And I'm going to use my round brush. This is a Foreground. And I'm going to carefully draw white around my sun. Try not to get it on my moon this time. And I'm going to wiggle out the edges just a little bit so that maybe where I wanted it to flare out, it'll have a little bit of. Okay, there we go. Now we're looking like it's like really bright, right? That white makes a big difference. Okay, and then I'm going to just do a little fling through my sun. I may not leave that. I don't know. We'll see. I kind of dabbed off with my finger a little bit. And I'm going to get a little bit of my purple that was the background for that sun, or the moon, I mean. And I keep saying sun, sorry. You know what I mean. Mark's making fun of me.
Ornaments.
Stuck in my head. It's the sun.
Well, you can just say the ball.
The moon is covering it. Yeah.
The Eclipse ball.
There you go. So just using a little bit of that magenta there and going a little bit darker blue right in here in the middle. Just dabbing that on and tapping around the edges to sort of blend it out. Okay. I think I like the little starburst effect. You can leave it off if you don't like it, but I think I'm gonna leave it on mine. Why not? All right, and then I'm gonna use the yellow and maybe a little bit of white, but mostly my yellow, just trying to match up the color behind my trees here a little bit, and gonna line out some sparklies on my trees here. I did this when I did the digital drawing. I kind of went back in and I added little sparkly bits along the edges. I don't know if it looks good or not, but it was fun. Maybe get a little bit of that orange. There we go. Just, I think those were a little too big, so there we go. See, just kind of softening off. That bright edge just a little bit. And then getting the magenta. I'm going to use magenta back here, because I think it would turn kind of like in the sun, going from the yellow to orange to magenta. So I think I'm going to do that on my tree, just as it's going away from the sun, kind of going darker and darker, using those same color transitions. Okay, that's very nice. I like that. Just softened it off a little bit, and then if I need to have a little bit of that background showing through, we can use this brush and try to match up the background color and just dab in just a few little peaks of color poking through here and there. That's called negative space painting. You see a lot in, like, well, there's certain styles of acrylic painting and, you know, just painting in general that do this, but pastel artists do this a lot, where they cut back in. They call it carving out the shape of your tree. And I like this because it kind of gives it a feel like that the sun is kind of piercing through these holes in places. So I'm just adding little pops of gold and orange and yellow, just a few places, just kind of like on this area of the tree here. I like it. All right. So kind of softens off that harsh, because sometimes when you use this dark color against the lighter sky, it looks really like, ooh. So it kind of just softens it off a little bit, gives it that little corona effect. I'm going to get some of the burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is a great color to use for this too, because it's got that orangey brown. It's neutral. So I'm going to use it back here in the area where it's darker. Just kind of anywhere where it looks like really obvious that our tree is stippled on, or you might have gotten too dark, too much of your tree texture. Just kind of figure out what that color behind the tree is. You can still see any of it, and tap a little bit of that color in. And you can always go back over it with your dark color too, so you're not set in stone here. This is not necessarily your final step, and sometimes you do this and it looks a little funky and you want to go back in with some of the black again, you know. So you can do this as many times as you want till you get your tree looking how you want it. But I really like this look of that kind of cut in, and I think I'm going to leave it. You can see where I've done it, you know, here, and here's some of the reds. I think I'm going to put some of the red over here too, just kind of behind some of these yellow ones. Kind of helps to make them look like they've got a little bit of transition. That's beautiful. Okay, I like it. Nice and soft, pretty. And then you can always go back in too with your black, or your blue, magenta color, whatever your tree trunk color, and go back in and and go back over a certain area, maybe add your tree trunk back in over the top. Maybe it's peeking out a certain place and you've covered up all of it and you want it to show again, so you can go back in and cut in back in your tree trunk. You can add a highlight to your tree trunk, so maybe I'll get some of that burnt sienna and orange color here, and maybe just on the side nearest the sun I'll add just a little pop of lighter color on that side.
Which brush is that?
This is the Foreground. This is what I was using on the sun too.
That's a VelvetTouch. Okay, VelvetTouch Foreground. Got it.
Yeah, this one of my favorite brushes.
You see that in front of all the other brushes, huh?
It is. If I had a favorite two brushes, it would be these two. You can do 90% of what I do, and then maybe a large Filbert for blending and sky stuff like that. And then maybe you can do your background stuff, you know, with a foam brush. I used foam brushes for years, or even a cheap gesso brush, you know, to do your background, large area stuff. But
water on your flower, just below your flowers, right in the middle.
I watch it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So let's go. Set that aside with paint all in it. But thankfully, it's not going to get ruined. It's not one of those kind of brushes. We have to worry about that. Okay. So getting some more light orange. This one that had a little bit of the white. This is the Pyrrole orange and cadmium red. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna tap these in sort of generally where, maybe just use kind of the corner. Sort of start tapping in because I can just do more with this. But then I'll come back in and kind of define some flowers also. This will help me keep from getting too fussy with my flower shapes. All right, this looks really good. I'm loving this. I love painting poppies. It's one of my favorite flowers to paint. When I started doing canvases, it was the first I did several poppies. It was the first flowers that I painted, so I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for poppies because it's what got me back into doing painting. I took a couple years off when I had our third child and was just burned out. I had done painting on wood for years, and then I just was like, I had done canvas work in college, but I just got frustrated with it because I didn't have the techniques down yet for working with acrylics, and I was trying to do things with it that you can only do with oil paints, and it was very frustrating. All right, I'm gonna mix my two browns here and just kind of tap back in over just in a few places. There, I don't really think I need much more though on my tree. I don't want to mess with it too much because I like it. But yeah, so I was in a real funk for a few years there and didn't paint at all, and then started doing canvases again, and all the years painting on wood helped. Helped a lot. I had techniques. I had been doing craft shows and craft painting techniques, floating and all that decorative painting, the one stroke stuff, all of that stuff I was doing for years on wood. And then stopped painting for 2 years, and then when I started back up, I started back on canvases and never looked back. And it was a whole different experience than it had been in college, because I had a little bit of experience and I knew kind of, you know, although canvas was very different from wood. If you've transitioned, you'll know what I mean, because wood is super smooth and canvas does different things than wood does, but it was fun. And poppies were one of the first things I started painting. And then I painted nests for years. I was telling my my challenge group that does my 2 Thursday shows. We started on a new project with the butterflies. And I was like, I've come full circle because for years I only painted nests and butterflies, and now I'm back to painting butterflies again. And last month I painted them twice, I think. I don't know. You just have things that make you happy. You know, you got to do it.
Exactly.
All I could find to paint this in April was flowers, apparently, because that's pretty much all we're painting.
We're ready for spring.
I am ready for spring. All right, I'm going to wash my hands off because they're just getting nasty. And I don't want to touch anything and get paint on it. Acrylics will stick to itself, so if you have it on your hands, you can transfer it to your canvas unintentionally. All right, so just a few flowers and we're done. We're making good time. I'm going to start with the cadmium red light, or cadmium red medium, and magenta here. And I'm just going to kind of go over these areas that I already have it. And I'm holding the 3/8 inch angle brush with the point down. This is important because then we can get these dot shapes. And I'm just going to kind of target these little clusters that we've already done and add little dots, little teeny tiny dots farther back, and this is just to kind of define some of the outlines. Like way back here, they're going to be teeny, 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 and I'm not going to do them everywhere, but I'm just going to do a few of them. And this should be like a little bit darker than what we've already got, or just a little bit of a contrast. So either lighter or darker, just so that you can see it against that background. And as we get farther closer, we did this perspective lesson last year, but we did, oh, I think I just lost something. We did it about, there's our butterfly drawing. We did it about seascapes, and we talked about, doing your waves smaller in the distance and bigger closer. So the same deal goes with our poppies. We've got little dots for our poppy flowers, and every time it gets, here's our horizon and here's our foreground, halfway would be right here. So from here to here, our poppies will get half the size. So we'll have some that are this size in the foreground, and as we approach that line, they'll start to get smaller and smaller until by the time we get to this line, halfway to our horizon line, they're going to be half the size that they are there. So they're going to be about like that, right? Some, will be clustered together, but these ones in the foreground should be the biggest ones. And just by doing this, and then from here to here, if we half it again, right, then they'll get half the size again. So this size would be half by the time it reaches here. So you're going to be this size by the time you're here, right? And then it continues, and by the time you get to the horizon line, you're basically not seeing those dots at all. You're just seeing tiny little lines because they're so tiny. And that's how you can get your perspective, just by doing different size dots and by altering the size of the dots as they approach the horizon line. Okay, so just by doing that, and that's exactly what we're going to do here on our canvas. So make sure you keep this in mind. Occasionally you will see a larger poppy up higher, and that would be if your perspective was tilted a little bit more and you were like at ground level looking through the poppies. And so sometimes you'll see me do paintings where I'll have the poppies way up here and they'll be up in the sky, but that's because I'm taking that photo, or the perspective is on the ground, not from you standing up. So in this instance, we're standing up and our head is here. We're looking down at the flowers, and so we're seeing them here. If we were down here on the ground and looking up at the flowers, then those flowers would be up in the sky and we would see them, and we would still see some distance, but we would have these larger flowers in front, and that's what you see in this one right here. This is the perspective from the ground. We're not looking down on our bunny. We're looking eye to eye with him, and he is the same height as our flowers, and that's why we're seeing the flowers in the distance, and they're still getting smaller as they approach the horizon line, but we have these bigger flowers in the way, and it just has to do with our perspective and where we're looking at the object. We're looking through the flowers instead of looking down on them. Thank you, honey. All right. So that's what we're doing here. Sorry. Thought that was important, just so you kind of have that idea in your heads as you do this and know why you're doing it this way. It will make a difference. So don't put your big flowers back here. So all that to just for that one little point. I could have said it, but it's more important if you understand it and then know why you're doing it that way. So just going to plop my brush down a little harder down in this foreground and get bigger flowers that way. And I'm targeting again these marks that I've already got and just making them bigger, but leaving them still a little bit visible. Really nice. Okay. Add as many as you want. You'll notice they kind of cluster together though, so kind of keep that in mind. Leave some spaces open for the grass. And by the time we're here, we're about halfway, right? We want to start being about half this size, so we don't want to be doing any big ones right in here. We want to keep them really small. Okay, that looks good. I'm pretty happy with that. Let me wipe my brush out, and I'm going to get more white. I'm going to take that color, and I'm going to get some orange. That keeps my red from going pink. Now it's kind of more orangey. And I'm going to go on top of my poppies that I have in this area, and I'm going to dab in some of this color on top, maybe get a little bit more orange even, and just do some petals that are lit up by the sun, which is hiding behind the moon. So we're making make-believe here because there is no sun right now. It's dark, but that's okay. We're just doing what we want to do. Don't question the science. This is how we make believe it is going to look. Okay. I think I'll put my sleeve on here because I can see some smudges here, but I have some red somewhere over here. Who knows? All right. Little teeny dots up here. Okay. And I am going to go ahead and just do little dots. Kind of thinking about where the light, if it was peeking through, would be hitting these. All right. And then we go back in with my magenta and my cadmium red again, only this time maybe adding just the tiniest bit of like black or Just a tiniest little bit of black, just to make it a little bit darker. And I'm going to go kind of below some of these lines and just a little bit. I mean, you can stop at any point that you're happy. So I'm just trying to give my poppies that are in the foreground just a little bit of detail, a little bit of petal-like look, so I can kind of go side to side, maybe create a couple petals. Look at the shapes of the poppies that you're seeing in your picture, and they kind of flatten out on top and they have like a bowl shape, kind of cupped a little bit, but they're often kind of in this like a triangular shape, or I mean, unless you're looking down on them, obviously they're round, but just the way they grow, they kind of flatten out at the bottom, and their petals, when you look at them from the side, they kind of have a triangular shape. So I'm kind of trying to get that shape in some of these, just these foreground ones. And then you can always go back in also and add, there's also like, ooh, I didn't use any of my unbleached titanium tonight. Let's use that. I'm going to get some green, and I'm going to make it with my ultramarine blue and my yellow and a little bit of this unbleached titanium, and I'm going to do little dabs of, this will be really important because there's all these little seed heads and things that are happening in here, and this really makes it look realistic because the light is catching all these little unopened or spent seed pods in the poppy field, and you have all these little dots happening everywhere. That really finishes it. And you can, again, they get smaller as they go distance, and then by the time they're back here, you don't really see many at all, if any. Okay. Ta-da! I think we're done. No, if we want to, we could brighten up. I could see that our poppies are a little bit brighter in the foreground, so I'd need to let it dry though to be able to do that, and maybe add some yellows to the color down here. But let me see if I can get it in here. I don't know if I can without it. So I'm going to get the cadmium, the Indian yellow, India. They changed the name on me. Cadmium, red, and India yellow, and maybe a little bit of the unbleached titanium. I thought I was going to use that in the sky, but I didn't. All right, so made kind of like a neutral reddish orange. I'm just going to kind of use it on the top of a few of these. I think I'd go a little bit lighter. Your value has to be a little bit lighter for it to show up. So just a little bit lighter. There we go. Okay, that looks better. So we're getting a little bit of a glow on a few of these. I can kind of just hold my brush and tap it and get that stippling effect. It won't be quite as noticeable as with the blender, but you get kind of a similar effect. All right, there we go. That looks a little bit better, I think, just with a little bit of that lighter yellowish color here and there. I'll add it to a few of our flowers in the foreground here. Nice. And then you can go back in with your bright cadmium red just alone, because it's going to be your brightest red. And you can target some of these lighter areas. It'll show up against the lighter color. So you can have, like if you want more of this bright red to show up really bright, you might go in with some light pink or lighter, or just go over these areas that we just did with the lighter color, you know, and add our cadmium red over them. And they'll, because of the white underneath, it'll show up brighter than it will over the green areas. That's what I'm saying. So if you have want some bright red, that's the way to do it. All right, I think I'm going to quit there before I add too much red. I will add red until there's no grass left. So I need to stop myself. Pretty notorious for filling up all the flowers in the world everywhere. I want to fill the whole canvas with flowers when I get the chance. All right, there we go. Really fun. Hope you guys try this. Hope you stay safe. Wear your glasses. Do not look at the sun without your glasses or you will hurt yourself.
Your Eclipse glasses.
Your Eclipse glasses. Make sure you get them from a good place. Don't get them from the corner guy on the street. Mark's.
Yeah.
We don't know where they come from, and you know.
I was getting off the highway yesterday, and there was somebody. You know, usually there's people who's looking for money and stuff like that, stopping cars where they're stopped to try to get off the highway. Anyways, the person yesterday was handing out Eclipse glasses,
Which was very sweet.
Yeah, very sweet, but you don't know where they came from,
Yeah, exactly.
and you don't know if they're certified.
Right.
So
It's not worth your eyesight.
and
You don't want
somebody
to have a corona for the rest of your life showing up.
right.
I heard from somebody after the last eclipse that was like, yeah, now I see a white like this in my there's a black spot in my like this it burned on his retina. Like, oh, definitely don't want that. Yeah. So sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, somebody had put in that the ISO certification 12312-2 is what you're looking for.
Oh, 12312-2.
Yes.
Okay.
So it should be printed on the side of the glasses or the box or whatever.
Okay.
And so those have been
If that
certified.
doesn't say that, then
For
don't
this-
use them. Okay.
You're risking.
You're risking your eyesight.
Mhm.
Yes, that would really, really, really bad. All right.
And then you couldn't watch these awesome videos.
Exactly.
That would be
Exactly.
so
What would you
sad.
do on Tuesdays? You could listen still. I know we have some blind people that watch and listen. But all right, let me.
No more flowers.
I'm not
Yeah.
doing more flowers. I'm doing more green. I'm just getting some of this color that's down here, and I'm gonna tap it on right back here because those looked funky to me. Just giving them a little bit more detail in this. Just killing it. All right. I probably could have done more in that distance, but I think we're good. And Mark wants to go to watch Oak Island, so I have to
Yes,
stop now.
it's the week
They're gonna find stuff.
of it. Yes,
Okay.
for
All right.
sure.
Fingers crossed, everybody.
Oh, and we
We'll
did
circle back next week and find out if he was right.
buy the winning $1 billion lottery ticket
Nice,
during lunch.
nice.
So
Well, I'll still be here next week regardless.
I will not be.
Mark will be in Bahamas or somewhere, but-
we're not doing a show next week,
Oh, we're not. That's right, because we've got guests coming in. So we'll,
and I'll be at work.
yes. So, yeah, Mark has meetings that he couldn't get out of, and I figured we've got guests, and so I don't like to do the show. So, yeah, we won't be here next week. Happy Eclipse. Hope you guys all stay safe, and we'll see you in 2 weeks here
Yes,
for, I'm not sure what I'm painting. I think
Hold
maybe
on.
the daffodil.
I saved the mail from.
Doing a cat in some flowers, which I'm really excited about. And there's another one. I don't know what it is.
You have, let's see, dogs, flowers.
The dogs is the bonus video.
Flowers next week. Dahlias.
Dahlias. Yes, that's. I need to find that
Hey,
photo.
if you get into this newsletter, you get all the tea.
I have to look at my newsletter to know what I'm painting. So.
Yep. Get all the tea on the newsletter.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you keep informed. All right. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next time. Bye.